Hello, my name is Brian Gilbach, and I will be a guest commentator in this video for Dweebovision. I am a North American Scrabble expert, and in this video, I am going to play Scrabble while providing in-game commentary on my moves. Hopefully, this will help to improve your game and be fun to watch. I will be playing this game with the North American Tournament word list and the double challenge rule in which a lost challenge results in a loss of turn. The game is just about to start, so let's join the action. All right. It's my opponent to go first. I have duplicated C and duplicated I. Now, despite that, it looks like it might be close to something, some sort of bingo. I see. I have the IC ending. I'm just placing them here to take a look at what I have remaining. Almost scientific, but that would be a very long word, not 8 letters or shorter. All right. Now, my opponent has played bonier. Let's take a look at those floaters really quickly. Make sure I don't miss a bingo as I did in my previous video. All right, I'm not seeing anything through those. Now, I do have the word conceit. That gives me high tile turnover and 22 points, leaving just I. That's not too bad. I don't have an O. I was thinking maybe bocce here, but the O is in bonier, not on my rack. All right, I'm just considering these various columns. The C's don't play parallel very well, so that limits my possibilities in the horizontal direction. I like conceit. All right. And I'm going to try and play a little quicker at the beginning of the game as opposed to what I did in some of my previous videos where I spun my wheels a lot early in the game and got in time trouble later. It's always a balancing act between when do you want to spend your time. Now, I have a very vowel-heavy rack. My priority here is going to be to try to play off as many vowels as I can. An exchange is within the realm of possibility here as well. I see iota. That would only score 8 points and would still leave 3 vowels and a consonant. Not great. Looking at these different floaters. Could play coup for 11 points. That leaves 4 vowels and a consonant. I was looking at Aetia, but EB is not a word, so that's not a possibility. Bonier, I don't believe, has any 3-letter front extensions. We mustn't forget to look for front extensions. Great play by my opponent. That's a bingo. Now, does this open up anything exciting for me here? I don't believe so. I was thinking about iota, but that doesn't really fit very well in getting to the triple word score. I'm really not seeing much of anything exciting that I can do with this. I'm thinking of just keeping maybe a T and an E. Could play cootie for 12 points, leaving double A. Is that better than exchanging? It probably is. Although I am using a lot of these 1-point tiles, but if I trade, I'm going to be trading away a lot of those 1-point tiles in any case. Double A, that's not so great. I think I am just going to keep ET. The board is rather open. I don't want to close it down. So I'm going to do change AAIOO, keeping ET. All right, now I have some higher point tiles for scoring. And if I could clean it up quickly, maybe I can get a bingo. I don't really feel any closer to a bingo than I did a second ago. Now, I was just looking at that place for pub. My opponent scores 46 for that, so I'm getting in a deep hole here. All right. Now, what goes under here? T. Only the I goes under here. So I could play tip. That's only 19 points and keeps the U and some high point tiles. I could play pub here. That's not very defensive, but I don't really want to be defensive. It is slightly reckless, but if my opponent scores here with the tiles I have remaining, I might be able to get a bingo here. Now I'm just looking very quickly. I could play pub here as well for 17 points, but that closes bingo lines. This scores 7 more points and is less defensive. We're going to go with this. And that's a really good rack. Now, what bingos do I have? Well, I see ING, and then I have ADET. Okay, so sedating is a word I have right here. Does that have an anagram? Sedating. I can't think of an anagram for that one. Now, let's consider some of the other floaters in case the N, or in case the S is blocked. How about this N? Not thinking of anything. Oh, and I just realized I would have had debating had my opponent not blocked it. That would have been really fun. Oh well. All right, now. Okay, so I've seen sedating. I did not think of an anagram for that. Now with an E, I don't believe I have anything. How about with an N? Can't think of anything with an N. How about an I? Ideating? IDEATING. Ideating. That would be 70 points, and that's less, that's more defensive than playing sedating. But sedating gets the D on triple. Let's see how much this, no it doesn't, sedating. That's only 4 more points and much less defensive. I think I prefer ideating. Now, I could play that up here as well. That's also 70 points. And maybe I want to play up here to open up the upper portion of the board as well. That's probably better. Now, ER. That looks like that could possibly make a 9, but it wouldn't hit anything, any double word score, so I'm not going to do that. Nothing from the C that I can think of. Okay, I'm ready to go with ideating in this spot. All right. Now, I have dropsy. Not sure where that could play. Now, I've closed the gap somewhat. I'm about 43 points behind, so still trailing somewhat. Need to keep the board flexible and open so I can make a comeback here. Now, I have the Y and the P for scoring. Neither of those fits under here, but a D fits under here. Also an O fits under here. But I'm not seeing a way I could take advantage of this triple word score. Now, lobe was just trying to think of any back extensions for lobe. Lobe fish is good, but I'm not anywhere close to that possibility. All right, my opponent only scores 14 points with VL, so that's some good news. Now, how about this spot here? Can I take advantage of this? Well, I think I have Yerds. That would be 34 points. That's not bad. It does use the S, but if there's not any higher scoring plays, it may be worth using the S to do that. Now, I'm looking where I can play a P or a Y that might be a lot of points. Now, I consider Dropsy, but I don't believe that plays anywhere. Just quickly considering looking for any kind of bingo lanes, but it doesn't look promising for a bingo, so I don't believe that there is one. Well, I saw Yerds, and I think I'm going to give that a try. That breaks up the duplicate R, uses the D. POR is not a bad leave. Let's see what happens. All right. I've got duplicated R again. It almost looks like something through the E here. Peloria. But that's only just using 6 tiles instead of 7. I'm narrowing the gap a little bit here, which is good. I'm sneaking up even with, well, I did get a bingo, but even without getting a bingo, I may be able to catch up. Now, what goes above the Y? Either an A or an O. Trying to think what words fit here with ending in an A or an O. Not thinking of anything that's really good. Now this is kind of blocked up because of 3 consonants. You would need some vowels above that. Now under this E, an R goes under the E, an O goes under the S or an I. I could play rip. Rip would be 19 points, leaving oral. Well, that's not terrible. It'd be nice to score some more points than that. All right. Just going to scan different rows and columns here for interesting hook ideas. And in a second, I'll look for, I'll again look for extensions to words that are on the board. All right, let's look vertically. Okay, my opponent takes the triple lane, but only scores 17 points again. So if I can keep scoring more than my opponent, I may be able to catch up here now. Now, I considered rip. Now, I was just looking in columns for anything exciting. I wasn't really seeing anything very exciting. Now, what goes under this E? An R or an L? I could do something like opal, but that only scores 14 points and leaves duplicated R, which is not very good. Conceit, that doesn't take any front hooks, does it? Not that I can, or front extensions rather, not that I can think of. I might just go with rip. How about this C? Can I play through that for a bingo? Almost corporeal, but that would be a 9. And I didn't see any bingos through floaters, so I think I am going to do rip for 19 points and hope for a good draw here. Both blanks are still available. Maybe I can draw one. No, but I do draw an X for scoring. Now I could just do right off, I could do ox for 29 points. My opponent is taking out these triple lanes, but is not scoring very highly as he's doing them. So he may be worried about defense and trying to prevent me from scoring highly, but he's also not scoring very highly. We'll see what maybe he had after the game on his racks. Now, X. All right. Does not fit there because I can't do OXO because of pit. Where else can the X go? I do want to play this X quickly because the rest of the rack is fairly bingo-y. Now, my opponent did take out the best scoring play for the X. Can I get the X here somehow? I'm not seeing a way to do that. All right, where else can I play my X? I'm not really seeing. Normally the X is fairly flexible for a very high scoring tile, but I'm not seeing a way to do it here. X. Axe. That's a way to do it. And I could, this is tempting now to use my S because that would score another 13 points. Well, how many S's are available? There's only one S remaining, but there are 2 blanks. So I am getting more tile turnover by using the S. 13 more points. And that's going to draw me to pretty much even, actually ahead. That's going to put a lot of pressure on my opponent by using the S. I think I am going to do that. And a positive for this is it no longer takes a back E, so I don't allow a high scoring counterplay for my opponent here, hooking an E here. So it's somewhat defensive as well, so I'm going to do it. All right. Now I'm ahead by 9 points with my opponent on turn. This does not look bingo-y again. What can I do with this rack? All right, I probably want to play an R. I probably want to play, oh, great play by my opponent. My opponent gets another bingo, uses the first blank, draws 7 tiles, so it was a good chance, better than normal chance that he drew the second blank. Now, I could play Juror. That would not only clean up the duplicated R, but would use both of them. Would use the U. The Q has already been used, so I don't want to keep a U. Now that would just leave 3 consonants remaining. Not so good. I feel like I'm going to need a bingo to win this game now, so how can I most quickly get to a bingo rack? There's not many available bingo lanes on the board now either, and that's another problem. So this is getting rather difficult. My opponent has kept on the pressure by getting that bingo. Now I could do, no, I can't do DA. That's not valid in our dictionary. Well, I'm not seeing much better than Juror at the moment. Now, before I do that, I should note there's only 1 O remaining in the bag, 2 U's. So I still want to get rid of the U. I'm not seeing a lot more that I can do right now. So we are going to go with juror. That opens up some triple lanes here, leaves this triple lane open, and maybe I can play something to an L, especially if I draw one of these 5 A's. All right. That almost looks like fluttered, but that would be a 9. I'm not seeing a 7 or an 8 with this rack. I note that I drew another U, which I'll also want to jettison as quickly as possible. I'm trailing by almost 50 points. Even if I get a bingo, this could be a very tight ending to this game. All right. Not much I can do up here. I see F, but that would leave me with a terrible leave and would close off this bingo lane. I note that I have the right letters for fluttered in this ER. If this ER was lower, I would have, if this was here, for example, I would have fluttered through it. In clabbers, you could play it, and it doesn't matter where the letters are in the lane. A good score by my opponent, 33 points for that, and that does close down a bingo lane. Now, in addition to getting rid of the U, I may also have to try to open up another bingo lane down here at the bottom. This P could also be available for a bingo. Now I keep seeing fluted, but that uses a lot of tiles. I don't think I want to use so many tiles, because it's in my interest to play off few tiles and keep the game going for as long as possible to give me a better chance to finally get a bingo rack and catch up. Now, I'm running a little low on time. F, E, F. I'm just seeing F, E. What can I do with F, U? And maybe that didn't sound so good, but I could play this. Closes a bingo lane. But here now the F is a new bingo lane. Not a great floater tile, but TED is not so bad. Maybe I can draw the blank. All right. This almost looks like something. It's close to tarweed, but I'd need another E, not an A. Now, I note that I draw an A, which goes good with an L, ending a bingo. If I could get rid of the W for a good score. Flout only scored 16, I note. And that's bad in that my opponent scored a lot. So even if I get a bingo, I may still end up trailing. Now, where can I use the W? Very quickly, I want to see what I can do with that. I could play AW. That also doesn't score a lot again. Well, it scores 14, not very good. AW, I think, would be my best letters to play off for a chance to get a bingo. Looking at these different floaters, P doesn't look like anything. AW. I could do AWA for 13. AW is 14, so that would be a better play. And I'm not really blocking much by putting a W here. This F is likely to start any bingos that I have. Well, oh. All right, my opponent blocks that bingo lane. And I can't think of anything. And actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Also blocks bingos going to here. So that's a good defensive play by my opponent. 12 tiles remaining. And, well, I saw AW. But if there's only one bingo lane remaining, my opponent may block that too, and then I'm going to be out of luck. Can I possibly open up another bingo? I could do AW here. That opens up, because I have an A, that opens up a bingo lane here and score 16 points. Also an E will work there. All right, this looks like something. Irradiate. E-R-A-D-I-A-T-E. If I had another A to play through, I'd have irradiate. Are there any sevens? If there were 7, I might be able to play in this row. I can't see a 7. Let me just consider each letter as the beginning of a word. A. Oh, well, in any case, my opponent gets another bingo, so I'm not going to win this one. So now my focus will just be to see if, well, let's get the best spread we can, and perhaps I can play the right tiles to get a bingo and narrow the gap somewhat. Or I could just go for score. Well, my opponent has just basically outpaced me in this game. I did my best to try to keep up, but when your opponent keeps getting bingo after bingo, hard to keep up. All right, so if I played off ED, that would leave me with a good leave, but there are some junky things here in the bag. I also could play EA, as in yay, or AE, which takes a back D. Now, I also could play, I was trying to think what I could play from the Y down to the triple letter. Not seeing anything there. AE. Well, that leaves me a pretty good rack leave. Maybe I can get a bingo on my last go. Anything from the P. I have riveted, but that does not play. This does not take a R. And YAR is good, but then MEI is not valid. Well, looks like I'm not going to get a bingo either. So now my focus will just be to score as many points as I can with my remaining tiles. All right, does that open up riveted? It does not. And my opponent has just demolished me in this game. All right. AHU. Will my opponent play out? I'm not seeing right away where they would play out. So I can go for an out in 2. If I play... Well, that would open up AH for my opponent, so that would not be a good play. DI. The V is inflexible in terms of playing parallel, so that doesn't help me. Well, maybe I'll just play this. DI is not good in our lexicon, so I can't do that. And I'm almost out of time now. DIRE, leaving me with vet. Will vet play out anywhere if my opponent doesn't play out? It will under DE. If my opponent doesn't block that, I don't have any more time to consider. We're going to go with this. 27 points is not too bad. I hit 300, which is good. It's a little sad when you don't reach 300, at least if you're a regular club and tournament player. It's a very high score for a casual player at home, but once you start playing clubs and tournaments, you'll hit 300 most of the time. Now, I'm hoping my opponent does not block vet, so I can go out. But if they do block that, where else can I play? I'm not going to have much time to consider. Where can the V be played? Am I going to be stuck with the V? Possibly. I could play vert. That doesn't use the E. I could play vert here, which is more points. That is... Or I could play evert. Okay, so I have two choices. I could do evert for 14 points, or I could play vet for 25 points. 25 is more points, so that's the play I'm going to go with. And that's the end of the game. All right, so the final score is 476 points to my opponent and 336 points to me, a winning margin for my opponent of 140 points. Excellent game by my opponent. Let's see what I missed. All right, no phonies played. That's always good. My opponent did play bonier. I played conceit. I could have also played iconic for 2 fewer points, but with a better rack leave of ET. My opponent found felines immediately. Good spot. And I had a lot of vowels. I could have played Atonia, Toonie, Cootie. I exchanged five tiles. The computer doesn't consider exchanges, so it's hard to know whether the computer would favor any of the exchanges that were available. All right, my opponent plays QI for 46 points, and I could have played Upbind for 26 points, Bipeds for 30 points. I just played Pub, the third choice here. That's a very good rack leave, though. Now, Upbind also has a pretty good rack leave and would be a little more defensive, although I'm behind, so I'm not going for defense at this point. Now, my opponent could have played Lovages at 14A, but had they done that, I would have had debating for a 9 timer, which would have been very excited. So This is something my opponent did throughout the game. Worked out very well for them. Every time there was a triple lane, they closed it up throughout the game. So instead of debating, I had to make a different play. I played ideating. I had available sedating, which I saw steading. Ideating was a little more defensive, doesn't open up a huge scoring lane over there in the right lane. All right. And I could have played pry for 27. I opted to use the S. Now, pry does not use the S and only scores 7 points fewer, so that may be a better play. Where does that go? Okay, making Veely, I did not consider that. That might have been a little bit of a better play. And also playing pry would have opened up an S spot that only I was likely to be able to use due to that I have an S here. Okay. All right. And ego, my opponent is closing up the triple lane. Wow. Well, that is a word I have not yet studied. I've not learned all my nines yet. So playing through E, where is that? 8C. All right. So playing through FE, I could have played the word peripheral. Well done to you if you spotted that one. I certainly did not. That is not even a word I've ever heard of before. All right, so what did I play? I played the word rip, which is one of the high options by the computer. All right, and here I drew the X, but I did not find a high scoring. Well, I did find a high scoring play for the X, sex, and I did use the S for extra points, which the computer likes in this case. My opponent draws the other blank, the first blank, and finds immediately add joins, which is the top computer choice. Well done. Juror is the top computer choice. There's just not a lot available here on this board. And this game quickly got away from me. All right, yeah is being suggested. Who is a good option also. Closes down a bingo lane. That's very smart for my opponent. I could have played conceited. ED, that's a clever play. Hooking lobe and also the X for 31 points. Not a good rack leave, though. What did I play? I went for rack balance, going quickly to try to get a bingo rack as quickly as possible. My opponent plays zeal, which is a good blocking play. I8 is the computer suggestion. Za, that is less blocky than zeal. So I think my opponent's play is just fine there. Again, I could have played conceited, but at this point I'm looking for a bingo. I don't think playing off ED, leaving AARTW is a good bingo rack. So I don't know how much I like that play. Awe is good, opens up a triple lane. Not one of the suggestions. It is one of the lower suggestions. I like it for just board opening purposes. And here my opponent immediately found gymnast, and syntagm is probably not how you pronounce that, is the anagram. Those are both fine plays. Let's see, 12i. So the top computer suggestion plays down into the triple lane. That is not at all recommended in this position. Playing into the triple lane could lead to a 9-timer for me, which would really be the only way my opponent can lose at this point. So gymnast is a much better play. Do I have a bingo here? I don't believe so. No, and again, I had conceded, and maybe at this point it could be time to bail out and make that play. I instead played AE. I'm still going for a bingo. My opponent makes a very high-scoring play. Excellent find, mic'd. And I, at this point, have no hope. Dire, just looking to play out. My opponent plays... What does my opponent play? Plays for 14, and I found my highest scoring play there, a vet. So, I think overall it seems like a very well played game by both opponents. I lost by a huge margin, but I don't feel like I really missed a lot, at least not according to this computer. Perhaps if we simulated, you would see some really clever setups or something you might be able to do to break out of this death grip that my opponent had me in. But I really feel like I played about to the best of my ability. So this is what you have to look for. When you lose by a huge margin, don't get deflated and think you forgot how to play. Just take a look at what you missed, and it doesn't look like I missed too much, so I feel good. Despite losing this game, I feel like I played a solid game. Hopefully you felt that way as well, and I hope you got something out of this video. Anyway, thank you for watching. My name is Brian Gilbach, and this has been a video for Dweebovision.